Hi everyone, my name is Fischer, also known as the New York City Broker. Today I'm going to share some tips with you discussing what are flood zones and flood insurance. And remember to contact me if you're looking to buy, sell, rent, or invest in residential or commercial real estate in New York City. So what are flood zones? Flood zones are areas that are at risk of flooding. They're classified into multiple levels based on how high the risk of flooding is. The original definition and classification are by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. The agency produces flood maps that show the areas in any given region, for example, New York City, they're at risk of being flooded by rising water levels. These maps were last updated in 2015, and the next update is expected in 2024. New York City has its own flood hazard mapper, developed by the Department of City Planning. You can use this map to find out which flood zone your neighborhood is in. There are 5 different zones: VE, AE, AO, A, and X, where VE has the highest risk of flooding while X has the lowest. There's also a base flood elevation, BFE, which shows how high the water level is expected to be in case of flooding. There are 2 types of floods. Coastal flooding refers to the flooding that happens when the water level in the coastal areas rises due to storms and floods in the areas closest to the coast. This is a risk that almost all buildings at or near New York City's 520-mile coastline face. However, some areas are at a higher risk than others because of the low difference between them and the water level. Pluvial flooding is when a combination of factors, including heavy rainfall and problems with the drainage system, create floods within the city. A recent example is the flooding New York City experienced due to Hurricane Ida. Why it's important to know about flood zones before buying property in New York City. There are 2 important reasons why understanding flood zones are important when you are looking to buy property in New York City. So the first aspect is flood insurance. Regular homeowners insurance doesn't offer protection against flooding, and you have to buy flood insurance if you want financial protection in case a flood damages your property. The premium of flood insurance is directly related to the flood risk. If you're buying property in flood zone VE, where risk is the highest, the insurance premiums will be high as well, and they would be low for low-risk areas. Other factors like how flood-proof the construction is and what your housing unit's elevation compared to the base flood elevation is can also impact the cost of flood insurance. So basement apartments, especially ones in flood zones or at risk of flash floods, might come with a higher flood insurance cost. Insurance coverage is another issue you should consider. Some flood insurance policies only cover the cost of structural damage and some appliances, but not your belongings. Even if you don't want to take out flood insurance, but you were buying your property with financing, your lender might require you to buy the insurance. It's mandatory for all federally backed mortgages for buying a property in special flood hazard areas, or SFHAs. It's important to note that these flood zone maps change over time, and if the change puts your property in a higher risk area, your flood insurance premiums may go up. Properties in flood zones, or properties that experience flash flooding due to high rainfalls and drainage failures, may have hidden water damage. Even an apartment that's above the flood level itself hasn't suffered from flooding. Its impact on the building structure can affect you, possibly in the form of higher maintenance fees later down the line. Thanks so much for joining me in this discussion regarding what are flood zones and flood insurance. If you have additional questions, please feel free to reach me at brett@thenewyorkcitybroker.com. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that you, your friends, and your family members can get all the best real estate content. I'm Brett Fischer, the New York City Broker. Have a great day.